Fade away. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to podcast number 98 of Basement Radio Arcade. We have an awesome show for you all tonight. This week has been a week filled of a lot of gaming-related news. I can't believe that we're only in January, and I feel like we've been bombarded with a lot of great news. This week we got news of finally a God of War release date of April 20th, 4/20. Interesting release day. We got some news from Nintendo that we'll talk about later on, and Microsoft, in my opinion, dropped a pretty big announcement yesterday, and so we'll talk about some of that stuff as well. And then we have some updates this week with EA and Anthem. We'll talk about that quickly, but we are joined by a special guest this evening, his second time on Basement Radio Arcade podcast, NPD Video Game Analyst for the United States, Mr. Matt Piscatella. Matt, welcome back, man.
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me back. It's awesome to be here. What's happening?
Not much, man. Just enjoying gaming, and certainly looking forward to the rest of 2018, and looking forward to talking about some of the trends in gaming with you, and December NPD as well. Seemed like it was a pretty big month for the gaming industry in December.
Yeah, January's been quiet so far, right? Like, geez, man. I don't remember a January ever having this much news happening. It's only the 24th. You kidding me?
I know. Yeah. And it's almost like, I feel like 3 days into the new year, we were getting like news. Like, I think 2 or 3 days into the new year, we got the news of those leaks, potential games from Microsoft that might be coming out with MechAssault and Fable, and now we hear about Fable and Playground. So yeah, it's been a pretty big a newsworthy January for sure. So we're also joined tonight by special co-host, a man who is part of one of my favorite podcasts on the Tick Network of the Iron Lords podcast. Lord Sovereign is back. Sovereign, what is going on, man?
What's up, man? Good to be back, man. It's been too long. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been a while, man. I think the last time we had you on, it was you, Cognito, Addict, and I want to say
I think King was on. I think
Lord
King and I
King
were on at the same time.
Yeah. So we just actually I actually did a BRAP rant with Cognito this week. So big shout out to the Iron Lords. Big fan of what you guys are doing. So glad to have you on tonight, man.
I appreciate it, man. I'm glad to be back on. Finally can coincide our schedules and get back on the show.
Exactly. We have Mr. Eric Jackson. Eric, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Glad to be here tonight once again. Yeah, ready to unfold some of this information that's been hitting us lately. Yeah, and definitely glad to have Matt and Sovereign back on.
All right, man.
Thanks, man.
And without further ado, we have the professor of gaming, Mr. B Money, or was it the Prophet? Which did Incognito give you a nickname?
No, I call him Gamer Damas.
Gamer Damas. You know what? We're going to start calling him Gamer Damas. B Money, what is going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? You know, man. Glad to be here. Another great Wednesday night. I got my 8-month-old. He's rolling with me tonight, so you might hear him in the background every now and then again. But other than that, man, you know, it's been another crazy week of gaming news, and I'm ready to dive in.
Give him the Joy-Con, man. let his hands test the Joy-Con. Get used to getting ready, right?
Right, man.
Big shout out to everyone in the live chat as well. Saltiest Gaming's in the house. Saltiest, what's going on? We have Justin Maroney too, who's in the house. And please, everyone, keep it civil. No fanboy stuff in the live chat. We don't do that here on BRAP. And hey, if you have any questions you want to ask us or ask our special guest Matt, feel free to do so in the live chat. We'll hope to get to those as soon as we can. So why don't we dive into Matt? Why don't we dive into December NPD? By all accounts, it seemed like a pretty big month for the gaming industry, and I think on the hardware side too. If I'm not mistaken, hardware year over year was up 14%. Is that did I quote that accurately?
Selling it a little short. For the year, hardware was up 28%. For the month of December, 27%. Really a big month for hardware. And, like I mentioned in the media release that the PS4 was the best-selling console of the year. The Switch was the best-selling console of December. But that really kind of sells the Xbox One short because all three consoles, the gap between the three was very small. And it was really a pick-em kind of race in December because everyone was running different kinds of promotions and offers and getting inventory out there and really pushing the product. And man, everyone seems to have found a slice of the market in December, and everyone did very well, which doesn't happen all the time. But this year, it certainly did. And between hardware and Call of Duty World War II, all of a sudden you have a market that's up double digits. Even on the physical software side, we're up, which is something that people wouldn't have thought would happen even 2-3 years ago, especially not in like 2013 when everyone was writing about the death of the consoles, and instead like today, and you're like everything is moving in the right direction. So it's really good to see.
Yeah, that's incredible, and it's great for us fans of the industry, and I think obviously Nintendo probably has a lot to do with some driving some of that this year, having done well and driving some of those higher hardware numbers. And I think it's great to see Nintendo. I think they've have sold 4 point something million in the first 10 months or something. Is like the fastest to 4 million in 10-month period. Am I getting that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So it's the fastest selling console over the first 10 months in history. That's probably going to fall apart here in the next couple months just because of the release dates and how things work with seasonality. But for the first 10 months, record-setting pace with probably the best year one game slate that's ever been released for a console. So, you talk about a system that coming into release, a lot of people were doubting its ability to capture the audience. You bring out some of the best games ever made within a very short window. You have a product that people really like, a slick OS that's responsive and fast, and all of a sudden you have a hit, and that's what they have right now.
How does Nintendo sustain that momentum and then going into 2018? I know you mentioned that things are probably going to drop because of the seasons and stuff like that. And there's obviously slow timers in the year in the industry, but how do they keep this up? I don't think there's no Zelda coming out this year or another Mario. How do they keep that momentum going?
So I think they're going to do it a couple ways. Labo, whichever. Certainly shows that they're going to expand their audience because up till now it's been very much a core targeted device, but now obviously going heavy to family and kids. And you know what? They've got games in the pipeline that they're not talking about yet. And when they do, it's going to be very exciting. And I'm sure by this time next year, they'll have dropped 3 or 4 big games on us that no one's expecting. And, we're going to turn around and look around and the Switch is going to be doing even better in 18 than it did in 17.
Wow.
But they're being a little sneaky about it. Sure. They're being a little quiet and pacing their announcements for sure.
Yeah, I got to say, I'd like the mini direct they had with, for me, Dark Souls was like the big announcement, the one announcement I'm looking forward to. But I'm really also become a fan of these mini directs and how they keep kind of giving us like little bits and pieces to kind of chomp on a little bit, kind of keep us engaged. I really like that from them. And do you think that they'll make any maybe big announcements through like the Nintendo Directs like that, or are they going to maybe wait till E3 to make some of the bigger announcements they might have in terms of content coming out?
They're much more successful to go in the direct route, and I gotta say, like from my position, I don't know why more companies don't follow suit. E3 as a thing, I know people love it because there's a lot of hype around the press conferences and all that, but there's also a lot of noise. And what they do very well is pace out their announcements so that they're really getting a lot of bang for their buck. And why other people aren't following their lead in this, I have no idea. Why everyone wants to put all their announcements in one 3-day window in June when they could have their whole window to themselves. It doesn't make any sense to me, but hey, man, what do I know?
No, it doesn't make sense to me either. I love it. I remember when they started toying around when they didn't go to E3, they started toying around with the idea of these Nintendo Directs, and I kind of was like, I wasn't a big fan because it wasn't E3, but I think as the years go on, I think they've gotten better at it, and I've actually come to appreciate and look forward to these things now because I feel like they're giving us like little bites, little niblets of information to kind of keep us engaged or keep a high level of engagement with the owners of their console or their products. So, yeah, I maybe, who knows, maybe Sony might do it one day. I don't know. but I certainly agree with you, Matt. I certainly agree with you. So with regards to the Switch, what are you projecting that they do this year, 2018, in terms of sales, hardware sales?
Well, I do have them the #1 selling hardware and software platform this year, at least on the physical side and software. Just based on normal cyclicality, this is going to be the sixth holiday for PS4, Xbox One, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So we should expect some declines there. And year 2 of a console is always the strongest growth year, and they know what they're doing, and I certainly expect to see that as the #1 selling console of the year. But all three to have really great years again, and I'm even forecasting double-digit % growth in physical software this year. So you add digital on top of that, all of a sudden, you start looking at a really big year, depending, of course, on what surprises are coming along with titles. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a strong year all around. I think it's going to lead to maybe next-gen announcements in 2019 for 2020 release to really get solid momentum, and I think we're in really good shape for at least the next 5 years, depending on what happens after that. But right now, people are doing smart things, and each manufacturer is targeting different folks, and they're not all fighting for the same small pie. The pie keeps getting bigger, and overall, that's great for the business.
Yeah. What about Xbox One X? I mean, I know Microsoft really doesn't give us any numbers in terms of console sales anymore. Any idea in terms of how Xbox One X did over the holiday, where you think that console or how that console might perform 2018?
Right. So in November, you might have caught a statement we made about how PS4 led the month in units, but Xbox One led the month in revenues.
Mm-hmm.
So really, how to translate that from corporate analyst speak is that both of them did very well. One of them sold more units, but another one sold close to the number of units, but at a higher price. So neck and neck. And how do you get to the higher price when the Xbox One S is discounted as heavily as it is? You have a higher priced X1X. So in terms of the mix, not a surprising mix, a really good start, probably a little bit better than I had assumed for the year. But I don't think it was massive, and I don't think it was disappointing at all. I think it was a very strong start and about at expectations.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, that's I think we had you on last. I think you may have thrown out a number, 500,000 maybe, or maybe it was less than that. I think
600,000 for the year I threw out there.
600,000. Okay. Yeah. So I guess you're saying that possibly 2019 we'll get some hardware announcements then. So is that also include Microsoft, even though they've released, and if it does, that's maybe kind of interesting considering they just released the X. But I think all of us would probably agree that maybe that makes sense for Sony to release a new console in 2020 as it's the PlayStation's 25th anniversary. Is Microsoft also including that projection of new hardware in 2020?
Yeah, however they go, whether it's a new traditional console, whether it's a Win 10 kind of PC with a console GUI that goes with a TV, like who knows? Like the way they're going, they definitely are going the service game route where your content goes with you wherever you go. So I imagine they have some really big plans on that. I don't know what they are, but I would imagine that if the other guys are coming out with a new box announcement, that they'll have some announcements of their own. But I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, interesting. And that's kind of like what we've been talking about here on BRAP. That a lot of us feel that Microsoft's kind of heading towards that services route, and I know that kind of freaks people out sometimes when we say that. But I think with the announcement of the update announcement with Xbox Game Pass, I think that further solidifies that they're heading that direction, which I don't know, to me makes sense. You know, why not have your platform in the hands of more people? You know, gentlemen, do you guys have any questions for Matt? Any additional questions?
I think something I wanted to ask Matt in regards to, I guess we could leave it for the Game Pass because it's specifically a Game Pass question. I don't know if you want to just focus on the NPD hardware stuff, but can I shoot it out now? Or should I just wait?
Go ahead, man. Go ahead, absolutely.
So in terms of the Game Pass, Matt, I mean, obviously Microsoft wouldn't do this if it wasn't in their best interest monetarily. So obviously there are numbers that say that this is a positive for them and they're going to make money in putting these first party games on Game Pass day one. What do you see as being, what do you think their thinking is in that regard? What are they seeing that made them make this decision?
So it's a great topic, and I'm really interested in hearing everyone's take here on the panel about what their thoughts are on it. My thoughts are that when we see, so when PS Plus and games with gold first started, right, the big fear was if you put a game on games with gold, that your sales are going to dry up, right? That everyone's going to get the game for free and no one's going to want to buy your game. What we found instead, and this also goes for deep discount promotion, what we found instead is after a game hit one of those services or hit a discounted promotion, sales were elevated, full price sales were elevated for weeks or months after that event. So what we learned as an industry is that engagement breeds engagement. Yes. And if you have people playing the game, talking about the game, telling their friends about the game, then their friends want to get in the game. And the idea is the more players you have, the more players you'll collect. And you can kind of see it, right? Either on Twitch streams or even the top selling titles. The big are getting bigger, the big audience is getting the bigger audience, right? And so I think this is the same kind of idea where by having it available to the Game Pass folks, you're going to get more sales than you would otherwise. You're going to have a bigger audience. You're going to have more opportunities to monetize that audience for better or worse. And in my mind, I think this is an awesome move. I think it's a very consumer-friendly move because now all of a sudden a consumer can try everything, and their content's going to go with them wherever they go. And if they want to buy the game, they get a discount on it. If they want to cancel their subscription, I mean, like I just see this as another one in the line of like Play Anywheres and the other initiatives that are really consumer focused. And I don't know. I see a lot of positives about it. I don't know. I'd love to hear what you guys think about it.
I absolutely agree with that. I mean, I think the trade-off for them and not necessarily selling you a $60 game day one, as opposed to getting as many eyes on it and as many hands on it as possible, is absolutely worth it for them. And I think if this is truly as successful as we all hope it's going to be interesting how it opens eyes over at Sony and opens eyes over at Nintendo and even Steam. I remember when this news first came out, and Cognito sent the link out over Messenger. My first response wasn't like, "Uh-oh, watch out Sony, watch out Nintendo." My first response was, "Watch out Steam," because it's inching into kind of their playing field, where Steam, if you look at Steam and how people can share on Steam, it's only within a home, physically within a home. So it's not very friendly in that way. Whereas when you're sharing on Xbox, even on PlayStation, you can do it from across the pond if you really wanted to. And then in terms of getting those games on there day one for a service price as opposed to full price, that's huge. That is so huge. It cannot be understated how huge that is. So it's going to be interesting to see how the competitors sort of respond to this stuff.
Mm-hmm. And actually, real quick, just kind of piggyback off what you just said, Lord Sovereign. Matt, we have a question from Ryan Landis in the live chat, and his question is, do you believe that each platform will continue in their lanes, or they try to market to the strengths of their competition? Example, Microsoft Game Pass. Will Sony copy them?
Man, that's the key question, right? That's the big question. I really want to know that question. I think Nintendo is very much going to stay Nintendo because that's what they do. Microsoft's going this route, but what is Sony going to do? They're in a market-leading position. They have a lot of strength. They have a strong stable of first-party studios. What they do and their next move is going to be fascinating, and it's going to really impact which way the market goes, right? So I'm as interested as anyone in what their next step is.
Yeah, no, me too.
In some part, they have to be like watching or seeing, the idea of Game Pass. Considering their vast like library, and I'm sure they're not completely tone deaf to people, not being completely enamored with PS Now as it stands right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, when you think,
absolutely.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to consider something in the vein of a Game Pass with their older titles.
mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily think they're in a position to do it like Microsoft's doing it with day and date release with their with first party stuff, because the bulk of their first party strength is in single player games. And if you give somebody a single player game day one on a service, a game that has absolutely no multiplayer component, no sort of replayability after true built-in replayability after you play it, the first 15 hours or so, it's kind of a hard. I think it doesn't make as much sense for them to put it in a service day one as opposed to trying to get your $60 day one, because theoretically you can get their service for a month, play that game, and then quit the service after that, and the game's done. You have no reason to go back to the game, and you were able to play it for $10. So I think it's a harder sell for them with so much first party content that they have coming down the pipeline. Definitely with their older stuff, their legacy stuff, but day in day like Microsoft is doing. If you look at all of Microsoft's titles, the Sea of Thieves, the Crackdown, the Forzas, everything has some sort of multiplayer component. Even State of Decay with the 4-player co-op stuff. So everything has some sort of multiplayer component to make sure you keep people coming back to the game. So it's.
Yeah, let me just kind of give my take on what you just said, Sovereign. Like, let's say in a hypothetical world, PlayStation says, you know what, we're going to change PS Now, and we're going to make it similar to what Microsoft's offering with Game Pass. I would still invest. Let's say Sony said it was going to be $10 to a month. I would still do it, even if the majority of those games are single player, because for me, there's a tremendous value in having access to a greater library at $10 a month versus paying $60 for one game, and then maybe another game drops and I'm paying another $60. Now I'm 120 in the hole, right? Yeah. And so I don't necessarily agree that the games would have to have some kind of multiplayer component only, or the majority of those games would have to be multiplayer. I just think there's value in just the amount of content you have accessible to you, and I think Matt, you want us to kind of share kind of our thoughts on Game Pass. To me, that's the brilliance behind this move now with throwing in Microsoft exclusive content at launch. Is that one, I get to try these games I may have not tried. Now I wasn't really interested in Sea of Thieves. Now Sea of Thieves is a possibility for me because I can try it. Crackdown 3 I wasn't really interested in based on some of the more recent demos that we've seen with that game. Now that game is me trying it is a real thing, and State of Decay 2 and any other the Forza series or Forza games that come out in the future, I'll possibly pick those up. But I think that there's value outside of just offering multiplayer content. And I understand like keeping a high level of engagement through multiplayer, but for me personally, there would still be a high level of engagement because, look, Sony puts out some really good first party exclusive content. And, I go back to, January of last year for them. I mean, we got Resident Evil 7, and then they were just dropping banger after banger after banger. I can't even only imagine having that kind of content in a service like Game Pass on the Sony side for $10. To me, that would just be a no-brainer. It would just offer me so much more value than going out and spending $60 for one game.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. The thing about it is that I'm talking about it from Sony being in the position of being in first place, right? And not having to concede any of that stuff. And I think if you look at it from that perspective, my feeling is that, yeah, they're going to say, well, A, I don't want to be me too with whatever Xbox is doing. So I always want to make sure I differentiate myself from them. And B, what they're going to do is, and I've seen some of this narrative already online, people naysayers to the Game Pass thing, you're devaluing your properties by putting them on the service. You're kind of underhandedly saying, I'm not confident enough in this product to sell it to you at $60. And they're going to lean into that. I think a lot of people felt like that God of War's announcement the very same day sort of was a poke at that. Like, okay, yeah, they're giving you all these games day one on this service, but this is what a real $60 game, looks like.
Yeah. So I was going to make the joke that this is the whole reason this thing came to fruition is because they were afraid of being destroyed by Crackdown 3. This is the way the Trojan horse Crackdown 3 without too much pain.
Yeah, no, they're going toe to toe with Labo. They're gonna fight it with the cardboard.
yeah, because it was completely no mistake that they God of War release date dropped.
Yeah,
the same.
No coincidence there.
Yeah, but no, I don't think it's a devaluing thing. I think it's just a different philosophy on strategy. But talking to like B and Enrique in our DM, like when it kind of dropped, I know one of the things people were saying was like, wow, that's pretty huge that, their first party stuff will be there like day and date, on the service. And people were kind of speculating and saying that, this could potentially, give them avenues to put like their first party content out there, to create first party content, give them the revenue to do so. And I guess that part remains to be seen, but I guess that could be somewhat true. But that's the kind of thing that I have the wait and see approach on, because I'm not wholly convinced that may be the case. I think it'll be definitely more for, like you were saying before, the overall user engagement of like the multiplayer side of things.
I personally, I hope that's not just the case. I would like for them to take this opportunity to, invest, let's say, some of this money off the, subscription on Game Pass, invest that into new content, because I think there's a real opportunity for them to kind of seize the moment here, to kind of offer, both of the best of the both worlds here with multiplayer, open world, whatever, games as a service type stuff that they're going to put out, but also maybe invest in some other new IP, some new franchises that we've talked about here on the show many times. We kind of feel like, Gears is great, Halo is great, but maybe give us some other new stuff. Maybe bring back some other sequels that maybe didn't do as well. Like maybe a sequel to Recall or a sequel to, I was going to say Quantum Break, but I personally wouldn't want to see a sequel to Quantum Break. Matt Chicken said no.
You don't want to see Quantum back?
Quantum back. If they could take some of these funds and fund more Cupheads, man, I'm all about it. Great.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yep.
Absolutely. And how do you think they handle DLC and stuff like that, season passes and stuff moving forward with this sort of stuff? Like, are you just getting the base game on the service?
Well, so season passes in and of themselves are a dying breed. They're not doing what they used to do. And a much smarter play that games like Siege have paved the road for is giving those updates for free and then doing the cosmetics route or the MTX route. That's been something that people have responded to in a much bigger way than they ever did season passes. So I think for going forward, here's all the playable content for free, all the updates for free, and buy a hat. You know what I mean? So
buy a hat.
And that's what they've done in their other games. I think besides Forza, Gears didn't have like a season pass, and neither did Halo 5. All the content was kind of free, and they, you just whatever other stuff you want to buy, it was microtransaction stuff, just cosmetic things or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Loot chests. So that's definitely a format that they've tried, and they've seen that it has worked for them. So going forward, I don't see them kind of rolling out season pass stuff, at least not from a first party standpoint.
Yeah, I'm excited about the potential for the episodic stuff that Phil was talking about a while back. The fact that you can now take those risks you guys are talking about and maybe give us some new IP and not necessarily go in 100% and have to spend, you know, $80 million, $100 million on a project and put something out, you know, episode 1 of something and see if it sticks. It gives you that potential to do that. So I think everything about Game Pass and what they're planning, what they seem to be planning to do with it is so exciting for how we're going to be consuming games in the next 5 years. It's really, really, really exciting.
I mean, I can imagine like imagine what the Game Pass could do for like a developer like oh my God, who's the developer that does Wolf Among Us and Telltale?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we talk about episodic content, or you know, isn't who are the guys behind Hitman? Aren't they out there? I mean, I thought Hitman was a great. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I
think Hitman. This iteration of Hitman has been the most perfect iteration of Hitman because I think when you look at what the core gameplay of Hitman is, repetition is always been core to that. But when you've had a full game in front of you, in all likelihood, you play a level maybe once or twice, get through it, maybe 1 or 2 different ways. And there'd be so many different ways for you to get through a level, but you just move on to the next one. And you quote unquote end the game. With the episodic stuff, and they give you one area to focus on for, you know, a month and a half. Mm-hmm. There's so much to do there. And if you're invested in the game and you enjoy the game, you're going to want to do that. You're going to want to use all these different weapons, all these different costumes and different approaches to assassinating your targets. That, I mean, it was the most perfect iteration of Hitman I've ever seen.
I remember people being like really kind of put out when they first announced it was going to be episodic.
Yeah,
it turned out to work like brilliantly.
Absolutely brilliant.
It did. That was the best iteration of Hitman. Hitman's been one of those franchises that for a long time I felt like there's so much potential in this franchise, and I always wanted to do well. I always left disappointed though, and then this came along, and it was like, okay, this makes sense. It was perfect. You know, and I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't go anywhere. I hope someone picks it up. I mean, I guess, are they looking for someone to publish a sequel? Is that kind of do we know anything about a sequel to the game, or is it kind of just in the abyss?
Yeah, they're already working on season 2.
They're working. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure because it was there was a partnership with Square Enix, right?
Right, and they broke off, and everybody thought that they were going to lose the IP, but they managed to work it out with Square Enix where they kept the IP, and then they just formed an independent studio. So I'm not sure how they plan on publishing it. I mean, if it's just a season 2, I'm sure they're going to digitally distribute everything. But my assumption is that you won't see a press disc for that maybe day 1. We were talking about that on our podcast, like from the beginning, like, hello, Phil, like pick them up, please, put them on Game Pass.
Makes sense. To me, it makes sense. Matt, we have another question from Jay Fonzarelli in the live chat. I don't know if you addressed this before. I thought we talked about this, but Jay's question to you is, I'd like to know Matt's take on the argument of devaluing their games by putting them on Game Pass. But did we talk about this? I feel like we may have addressed this already.
Yeah, a little bit. My take would be that by having the entire catalog on the service, you're only growing the strength of that catalog and the positioning of the brand. So, I mean, I don't see it at all. Like, and I haven't heard any feedback from anyone that this is a bad move in terms of, folks that watch the retail industry or anything. So, I think that's just some internet commentary that might be safely ignored for now until we start seeing some results. I mean, just every time one of these things happens or a game goes on PS Plus or gets into a service, things just kind of get better for that particular brand that's being highlighted. So I just think it's going to make the pie get bigger. Yeah.
Good point. Any impact to this to GameStop? I mean, we always talk about GameStop every time we hear about services like this. I mean,
every time something comes out, people are like, "What about GameStop?"
Yeah, I mean, how does GameStop? Because I automatically go back to like when Netflix first came out, and at the time we had Blockbuster, and Blockbuster was a big brick and mortar, and then there's no more Blockbuster now, and now Netflix is just huge, and does this potentially impact them? Are they looking at this and saying, wait a minute, maybe we need to look at doing something similar so we don't end up like a Blockbuster?
Well, were they like about to launch a program that was sort of like you can go in and rent theoretically like some of their games?
They were going to do that. I thought and they put that on hold.
They put it on hold.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely not the same thing as a Game Pass, but you could tell that they're trying to think of different ways to, you know, stay relevant and stay in the game, you know?
Yeah. I heard something, I don't know how true it is, that they were working out. There was some talk about, you know, them selling some exclusive 6 month passes for a particular price for Game Pass or something like that. Something you can get exclusively through them or something like that in order to sort of keep them in the game in that regard. But yeah, I think one thing, it's going to depend. It's going to depend, like Matt was saying, like they usually see sales of these games go up in the subsequent months after it's put on a service like this. And the thing about it is it's gonna be how many people can actually go 100% digital at that point. You know, bandwidth is still a very real issue.
Data caps.
For a lot of people, data caps. Yeah, it's a big issue. So there are plenty of people who buy games in stores, who still buy physical games. It's that number's dwindling all the time, but I still think it's a big enough market where there'll be a market for GameStop, I think.
Yeah. And so long as you can trade in games, I mean, I don't see them going anywhere.
Right, and the market, the physical sales market, is actually stabilized, and it grew this year. And I know, like, there's a lot of chatter out there about digital killing physical, and you know, my buddy only buys digital now, and 90% of my friends bought Halo digitally, and the numbers don't back it up. Like, digital is growing at a much faster rate. It is gaining share, but for the last 4 years now, physical sales have been fairly flat to growing. And with Switch being a very heavy physical platform, like I'm not saying like I'm super optimistic on the long-term prospects of brick and mortar in the game space, but it sure is a hell of a lot better than people are saying, because the market's still there, and we have more titles come into retail than we have in past years. 2 years ago was the all-time low. We had more physical Xbox One titles and PS4 titles hit this year than last. And we have a bigger variety of titles hitting retail than we have in the past. So, like, yeah, as with anything, this is going to impact it. But there are so many other things going on in the market that are growing sales and attracting different kind of consumer groups that I'm not super worried about it. But, you know, let's see how it goes.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you guys have any other comments on what you think Sony's reaction might be to this, to Game Pass?
I think, you know, for the most part right now, they're just going to chill, sit back and watch, you know, see what the player engagement is like. Because as of right now, we still don't know what the player count is on the subscriptions for Game Pass. And we don't know, you know, I mean, just because they made this glorious announcement, we don't know how big the Game Pass subscription is going to grow. You know what I mean? So, you know, we were just talking about people still purchasing physical discs and things like that. And I still think you'll see a lot of people kind of try out the service and, you know, see what it's like. And maybe they come back and forth a couple of times throughout the year. I don't think you'll see everyone subscribe for the entire year. So it'll be interesting. And I think Sony just kind of sits back, watches, and then they may approach it differently next generation.
Yeah, and they, yeah, you're right. And they kind of don't have to do anything because they're the market leader. And this is kind of, I guess what you're describing, B, from what I remember too, is kind of like what their approach was with online gaming with the PlayStation 2. We remember how big PS2 was. It was this juggernaut of a machine, and you know, Xbox came out with Xbox Live, and I think at the time, I don't remember Sony's exact quotes, but they were kind of like, oh, okay, you know, it's a thing, but you know, we're not looking at it seriously right now. And they kind of, I think that then PS3 came out, they kind of dabbled with it, and then PS4, I feel like, was where they really kind of made that commitment, kind of went in, you know, 100% with going all in and online play or PSN. So, But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think how if they incorporate that with the next PlayStation. So I hope they do, because obviously that's I'm a multi-platform owner, and that would be a nice win-win for me. It would certainly help me out, especially when I have little ones at home, and they're getting into gaming now too. And when you own 3 platforms and your kids are going to GameStop with you, and they're like, "Oh, I want this game too," and you're looking at Call of Duty, World War II, and you're looking at they want a racing game. It's kind of like you don't want to be the dad that says no, so you can play Call of Duty. So, Matt, I do have a question for you, and I meant to ask this earlier. So obviously PUBG is a big phenomenon, right? It's done very well on PC. Xbox, I think they announced 3 million. They sold 3 million copies or something on Xbox. Is this thing going to have legs on console? Because I feel like the console space is a little bit different than PC, in the sense that like on the console space you have these other big shooters like the Call of Duties that are very popular, Battlefield, Halos. Is this thing going to have legs?
Yeah, I think it might. I think what we're going to have a problem with, or they might have a problem with, is right now you have Fortnite and PUBG, really kind of taking the mind share from that. But what we're going to have over the next year are probably 30 or more battle royale modes or new games hit the market. I have a feeling at E3 we're going to be swimming in the damn things, and it might all kill us. So I think it's going to be you're going to have to keep getting better and keep improving the game, because everyone and their mom is going to come out with a battle royale game at some point this year, and the competition is going to get fierce. So
it's going to be the new Razor scooter.
The new what?
The new Razor scooter. Everybody's going to be swimming in them.
It's like Guitar Hero and Rock Band, like that.
Yeah.
E3 2010, where you had like 16 different freaking plastic music instrument games, and that dude on the Wii. Do you remember the Wii Music? That dude with the hair.
Yeah.
The drums. Oh man, it's gonna be like that.
Yeah, but man, you're right, man. It's gonna be like battle royale modes and everything, man.
Well, that's what the industry is good at doing, right? They're copying the hottest and latest trends, whatever's hot. So, oh man, I can't imagine more PUBG clones.
Ready for that Halo 6 battle royale mode?
Yup.
I don't know. I can't see Halo having battle royale, but never say never, right?
Or can you?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I probably could actually. A bunch of. Can you imagine a bunch of Master Chiefs parachuting down and scrambling for weapons and warthogs?
Yeah,
that actually sounds really fun.
Last of Us 2 will probably have it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think like zombies would be kind of cool, like zombies versus humans or whatever, or well, they're not really zombies, I guess. In Last of Us, what do they call them? Clickers.
Clickers, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they are. I guess they are zombies, but yeah, they call them clickers. God, that opening scene, the Last of Us, still punches me in the gut. You know what I'm talking about, Eric?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But that I think that'd be kind of cool, like a battle, like zombies versus humans.
Nintendo's gonna put a battle royale mode in Breath of the Wild in the DLC.
Oh my god! Isn't that kind of like Hyrule Warriors though? Isn't that kind of like a battle royale type thing?
No, battle royale. Dynasty Warriors. Yeah.
Oh, Dynasty Warriors. Yeah.
Somebody needs to pick up the actual battle royale license and make a game off of that, of the actual movie.
Yeah, man.
I don't know. I don't know how well teenagers massacring each other is going to fly, but
right. Well, I guess Hunger Games tried it,
yeah.
There you go. They got Hunger Games, the game,
But no, that would be battle royale, man. They did it first.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So, I got to ask you this question, Matt. VR. What? Yeah. It's like I feel like you're kind of like. I feel like somebody's really down on VR. Like, is it? How do you think it's gonna? Because I feel like Sony's really done a great job with supporting their VR peripherals, or peripheral. And Sony's kind of. I think when they announced the PlayStation VR, everyone's kind of like, oh, how long are they gonna support this thing for? But they seem like they're doubling down on it. I mean, do you think? I don't really follow VR a lot, but where are we right now with VR? And is this thing still kind of like? I think maybe when you were on the show last time, I thought you may have said they was kind of like throwing money in the fire pit, or
burn it for warmth.
Yeah.
So to be fair, Sony has done a very nice job with PSVR. They're the one company that's doing something positive with it. We'll see how big it can go, but as a total category, I mean, you're seeing so. So there are issues with a lot of things around VR, and everyone can talk about the barriers to entry on the price point, the room you need to have. I think there are problems with play pattern and how people interact with other humans. You need to be a special person and to be able to afford the headset, afford the space, afford the time to not have kids or pets under your feet, to be able to not be distracted in any way for 10 minutes in this society, right? When everyone's addicted to their phones and constant interaction. So I think there are huge barriers just in how people play these things. So I am not bullish at all on the possibilities of this thing going mass market. I think VR will settle into a nice little niche. Maybe in 10, 20 years, things will be different. But for now, like PSVR is doing it well. Everyone else isn't, including Oculus and the other cats. They're not doing particularly well. And I don't see it really going anywhere. And I think you can see that reflected. I don't know if you guys caught it today, but the GDC survey that came out, I was on a couple of news sites where they had some feedback from developers going to GDC about where they're spending their development thought and time and ideas. And the confidence level in VR and AR has certainly taken a plunge versus the heights they were at 2 years ago. And I think that reflects a market that's being very ambivalent to that proposition.
Interesting.
Yeah, I took a look at that survey and I saw a lot of devs are actually saying that they're bringing games to Switch, which I thought was very interesting. Everybody was kind of holding off the first year, and now they're kind of jumping aboard. So that's good news.
Heck yeah, that's good news. Great news for Nintendo. I mean, that's wow. I still, every time we talk about Nintendo on this podcast and the Switch, I'm still kind of blown away with just how well they're doing right now, considering. And B Money, I'm going to give you props again, man. I mean, you were the one. We were all naysayers on this podcast, and B was like, nope, you just wait.
Yeah, B Money's in the same boat with me and Cognito. We were people were like, nope. They're gonna be making games for Xbox and Sony soon.
Well, that's it's funny because that's been like a thing for like I feel like forever, ever since after the GameCube. It was kind of like once Xbox outsold the GameCube, everyone's like, oh, Nintendo's done. Like they're gonna start making games for Sony or Microsoft's gonna buy them out or something to that effect.
I mean, I was of that mind until I saw what the Switch was. Once I saw that and saw that they were leaning into what their biggest strength is, I said, yeah, this is gonna fly. This is gonna fly. The only way they were gonna flop is if they were dumb enough to think that they could put in like a comparable, home console and match it up against Sony and Xbox. I don't think it's hard for the market to support 3 home consoles. It's just very hard. So they had to differentiate in some way, and this was the perfect gimmick. This is the gimmick that stuck.
Mm-hmm. You know what? What's interesting about Nintendo is it's funny, and when I see people kind of like, it's almost, I don't know if it's a knock, but it's almost like they're this thing of, oh, well, it's not really a console, it's a glorified handheld. And, I saw somebody say, oh, it's just a tablet. I can go to a store and hook up a tablet to my TV. I'm just like, well,
I don't know about that.
Not exactly, again, these are the things that we see on Twitter, unfortunately.
I think the brilliance of the Switch.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say quickly, I think the brilliance of the Switch is that, much like what Microsoft is trying to do with Game Pass and their services, it keeps you engaged in their ecosystem at all times. Especially with the Switch, it's always with you. You're in their ecosystem, or you can jump into their ecosystem whenever you want, which is something that you can't do at this point yet with a Sony console or a Microsoft console. I've said this a few times on Iron Lords podcast. I hope that at some point, both of these console manufacturers look into, if they continue with this iterative console thing, at some point make their base console, or one of their consoles, be something portable where you can be engaged in their ecosystem at all times.
So let me ask you guys something. I'll throw this out to the live chat too, and get everyone's opinion on the panel. And I'm going to relate this to Microsoft, since we kind of get it. I think we kind of all are in agreement with where they're heading. Would you guys all want to see kind of a let's say an Xbox app on not just the Xbox console, but or have content on Xbox Live on other platforms like a PlayStation, PC, some kind of handheld device? Would you guys want to see something like that?
I mean, you can play their games on PC for the most part, and as far as like a different like platform or different like way to play, I always felt like once they revitalized like the Surface line, that they should have came out with like a gaming Surface tablet, where what I mean, it's you can hook your controller right up to the Surface, because you can do that on like the art. I know you could do it on the RT because I did it before, but like if they made something that was kind of more dedicated to the gaming side of it, and make it a little bit more towards like gaming, and not so focused on I mean, tasking and things like that.
Yeah,
I think they would have had a winner. What I mean, just make it a like a 8 to 10 inch screen, something you can fold up, throw it in a laptop bag or something like that, throw your controller in there, take all your games on the go. They're going towards this digital future anyway, so it'd be amazing to have like all your Game Pass stuff just be able to pop up on there and still be able to access it.
Yeah. Eric, any thoughts, man?
No, kind of in the same accordance. I don't want to see them get into trying to do like a dedicated handheld or anything like that. I kind of think they just kind of have to shore up a better way for you to access your stuff, because obviously people are not enamored with like the Windows 10 store and stuff like that. But I still think that they are moving towards the Xbox being a brand beyond just an actual box. And even going back to what Matt was saying earlier, we talked about this on the show too. I've long thought that the Xbox itself could become something of like an Apple TV, Fire TV type set top thing, that you access, content through. They may have that in accordance or alongside, an actual true console itself. But yeah, I definitely think they're thinking of different ways to deliver content, and it may not just be in one aspect, for long.
Yeah, that's definitely what I mean by something. I'm sorry, Mac.
I was just gonna say, I think the idea is that I think their idea is your content is with you wherever you go. I think that's the ultimate goal. And anywhere you want to play, I think they want to have your content there waiting for you, is what my take is. I'm sorry to interrupt you there.
Well, Matt, let me ask you, do you think that's also means PlayStation, like a PS, like a PlayStation console? Like and I know that sounds crazy, but I mean, could that be something?
It does sound crazy. But on a long enough timeline, the Earth's going to be swallowed by the sun, so you never know what could happen. 10 years down the road, 10 years ago, who knew that the market would look like it does today? 10 years from now, man, maybe. But I think the ultimate goal is that, wherever you are, you have your games with you. And I think that's the Switch, the goal of the Switch as well. And I think that's kind of where everything's trending. And again, how does Sony play in that space is really interesting to think about too.
Yeah. Saber, go ahead, man.
So going in with that thinking, what I was going to say about the portable thing is that I didn't mean like a dedicated portable in the sense where it's completely different architecture. What I'm looking at is like, if you look at the Switch is at this point probably a more powerful system than what we had with the 360 and the PS3. Like the guts of it are more powerful. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that in 5 years they can shrink, 5 years or so, they can shrink something down to the size of a Switch that's as powerful as an Xbox One or a PS4. So that's what I mean, where if they continue with these sort of iterations, that sort of thing where you're constantly in that ecosystem. It's not like, you know, a portable like a 3DS where you're playing different games on it. You're going to be in the Xbox ecosystem and be able to, like you said, like a Surface tablet, a portable machine, a true home console. But I agree that you know, if you look at this stuff long enough into the future, who knows if they really completely don't really care where you play your games, as long as you play them, you know, as long as you access that ecosystem, wherever it may be. So you never know. With this, you know, with the services driven stuff, who knows what their long-term thinking is. I don't see Sony walking away from it, but yeah, I can definitely see them Microsoft walking away at some point in that regard anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, it's I think, Matt, you mentioned earlier, you know, having access to your content everywhere. I mean, I feel like gaming is like the one entertainment medium where we really haven't had that per se. Like with music and movies and everything else and TV shows, we have that. We've had it for a long time, and it's interesting that gaming's getting to that point now.
Well, we have to, right? Because we have a bunch of kids that have grown up with their iOS devices that are going to get into the gaming space, and that's only going to be accelerated. So every young person's first experience with video games is on iOS, where they can play their iOS game on their tablet or their phone or their parents' phone. It's always there, and I think that's going to be their expectation as Gen Z matures and the next generation comes up. That's the baseline expectation, and all of us old farts who had to go to the store and buy a disc, like, we're going to look like ancient people using phones that had cords. Like, it's just a different mindset.
That's I've been saying that on the show for a long time. Like, and I that's a great point, Matt, because I see it with my own kids. You know, I have a 1-year-old, soon to be 4-year-old, and an 8-year-old, and the way they're experiencing gaming now is completely. I mean, I'm from the Atari generation, you know, where we had a one button and a joystick and a cartridge, and that was it, you know. And we used to buy games based off of how cool the box art looked. And yeah, so I agree 110%. I mean, I think the expectation is going to be different, and that's interesting because I wonder how this invites maybe other technologies into the gaming space. Like, I don't know if you guys heard Phil Harrison, who used to work at Microsoft, I believe was fired shortly after the reveal of the Xbox One. I think he worked at Atari for a little bit. He's been recently hired by Google. And so now there's all this speculation with the hiring of Phil Harrison. Is Google trying to make a play into the gaming industry? And I'd love to get everyone's thoughts on the panel on this. I mean, what does everyone think? Is this kind of and I know it's too early to tell. I mean, this could be, who knows why they hired him, but obviously when you hire someone like Phil Harrison, who's got the kind of experience he has in the gaming industry, it does raise eyebrows, I think, especially for Google. Do you think maybe Google's looking to get into the console space or in the gaming space? I mean, we know Amazon's kind of try to make that push. Gaming. Anyone?
Honestly, I wouldn't think so. No, I wouldn't think so. I mean, Google's definitely about services and stuff. So I mean, I don't know. I don't think so.
I mean, he joined their hardware unit, right? So he's been sort of at the helm of the launches of these consoles. He's familiarized with this sort of stuff. So who knows? I mean, maybe they do have something in the works. Maybe they're just kind of sort of bringing him on to brainstorm this stuff and see if it's viable. Again, and who knows what sort of gaming machine that would be. Again, it's hard for the market to sustain a lot of different machines where they're all successful like that. So what would that machine be? You already have something like an Apple TV. You've already had things that have come out that have failed, something like the Ouya. You know, the Atari box, which is in limbo now. The new Coleco, which was whatever, vaporware, it was never really a thing. So it'd be interesting to see what they would be thinking about bringing to market. But I mean, definitely, he's a hardware guy, so that's his expertise. So it's not beyond the realm possibility that they're thinking about something, and it'd be interesting to see what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're going head to head right now in the voice automation group, and Amazon's taking the lead with Alexa in the home, and Google's coming after that hard. They know Amazon's doing something in gaming, and what that something is even a mystery to a bunch to people in the industry. So you have to imagine that their eyes are open as to what Amazon's doing, and I think whatever those two folks do or those two companies do, it's going to be something new, unique, different that none of us are probably thinking of. So
Interesting. Yeah, we actually we had a developer on here. I don't want to mention his name because he broke NDA, but he had mentioned that I think he's one of the first ones in the industry that brought to my attention that Amazon was looking to get in that space because he actually was working on a potential project for them. And he actually broke. It's funny. He said that here, and then he's like, "Oh, I shouldn't have said that. I wasn't supposed to." But yeah, so that will be interesting to see how they what both do, especially if Google they decide to get into the gaming space. So I want to get to kind of the last topic of the evening, and again, it's Nintendo related, and we talked about it briefly in the beginning of the show. Nintendo Labo or Labo, whatever you want to call it. Nintendo. Wow, I mean, I didn't see this coming, and we talked about this the other day on the BRAP rant, and Eric and Sovereign and B, I know we've talked about this a lot, and Matt, I'd love to get everyone's opinion on this, but I've seen when Nintendo showed these cardboard things, and they that work with the Switch, and I guess for me, I mean, as a gamer, I was like, oh, this is terrible. Like, what is this? Like, I'm not going to buy this. And then I had to step away and say, well, okay, well, wait a minute. Like, I'm clearly not the target audience here, right? But I kind of think this is genius for them. It not just the idea of putting cardboard and using it, intertwining it with gaming and creating like almost interactive experience outside of just holding a physical controller. The technology by this is kind of technology in this is kind of impressive too. And I always go back to that cardboard keyboard piano, and how the and B Money. I give you props again. I was one that was kind of like, oh, what is this Joy-Con? Why are they doing motion controls again? And I thought the technology behind the motion controller, when you insert in the piano and it being able to sense the keys that you're pressing, I think that's pretty impressive. But I'd love to get everyone's thoughts on, how well they think this is going to sell for Nintendo. I think it was trending, I think 3 on Amazon last time I checked. But is this something that is going to kind of gain traction? I think Matt earlier, I think you said this might help sell even some more Switches for Nintendo. But is this something that, while the target audience is obviously children, that maybe even some adults kind of get into the Labo and get kind of caught into it? And is this going to be like one of those like big things that everyone goes rushing out for because it's such a huge kind of kids toy? Sovereign, why don't we go with you, man? Why don't you give us your thoughts first, man?
Well, I think my initial first thoughts were exactly the way you reacted. I was like, "What the hell?" And then when you stop and you realize that it isn't for you, right? And then you're like, "Yeah, it's kind of brilliant." Like one thing that I noticed when I watched the video, and I had to watch it 2 times to really get the gist of everything that was going on. The first thing I noticed was, man, like they're trying to sell me cardboard, and it's very hard to make cardboard look like a premium product. Like you see it and you see what they were doing with the piano and everything, but you can still see the seams of the cardboard. Like it's not, watching that in a direct, I'm like, wow, they're really trying to sell me just cardboard. I was blown away by this, right? And then obviously, like when you read more into it, when you read into the 2 different packages they're trying to sell you, when you read into the fact that once you buy into that, like and you have the blueprints for forever, and you can whatever, you can print those out and use your own cardboard. I'm sure that Twitch is going to be going crazy, and YouTube is going to be going crazy with people like 3D printing, Labo stuff, high quality plastic stuff rather than cardboard, even people making, Labo stuff out of metal. It's going to be crazy, the videos that come out of people using this. But I think it's absolutely brilliant on their part. I think they're leaning into what they are and what they've always considered themselves to be, which is tinkerers and toy makers. They're tinkerers and toy makers, and they've always made sure that they in some way, shape, or form, in all of their consoles, brought that stuff to the forefront. And with the Wii, it took off. With the Wii U, it didn't. And then with the Switch, honestly, when the Switch launched, I thought, with things like 1-2 Switch, they were going to lean very heavily on the Joy-Con stuff, and they sort of backed away from it and sort of focused that first year, on all that great first party stuff and making it feel kind of like a core console. So I think it was only a matter of time before we saw something where they leaned more into this stuff. But I think the idea is brilliant. I think my only worry is, again, kids trying to put the stuff together, how frustrating, how easy is it to put the stuff together. But I mean, from an engineering standpoint, the work that's gone into these designs and whatnot, it's absolutely fantastic. And kudos to them thinking outside the box again. Nobody in a million years would have thought this is what they were coming with. So,
Sabra, do you have any concerns about the price, and replacement parts? For me, I think durability is a reasonable concern to have with a product like this because it's cardboard. I mean, any concerns there with the price? $70.
The $70, obviously, there's hardware. I mean, there's software associated with all this stuff. So I guess that's where the main stuff in terms of price comes in. You're paying for software that's associated with this stuff. So I think it's fine. The fact that each one is a pack. I know the robot is a thing on its own, but that's really elaborate. So $80. One of the first things I thought about was why didn't they make it plastic? And the thing with plastic is it costs a lot more to manufacture, and if it doesn't sell, you're out a lot of money. If you look at the attempted resurgence of Guitar Hero and Rock Band and how that stuff flopped, and how you had all these instruments out in the wild that nobody wanted, even when Rock Band.
I see them at yard sales now.
Yeah, and nobody wants them. You can't give them away. So I think it's a smart move just in case it does flop. I don't think it will, but it's something that it's easily replaceable. But again, it's going to depend on the ease of putting that stuff together. Obviously, the first thing you put together, if you're giving it to a 6-7-year-old, it may not last, a week, 2 weeks, maybe. I mean, trying to be, conservative here, but again, this is why they're allowing you to download the blueprints so you can make your own and continue, and do different things with it, because I think they realize that people might get a little miffed that their $70 investment is kind of busted after a couple of weeks. So I guess they're trying to allay those fears with that sort of stuff. But again, it's just going to be, if it's easy to put together and people really have fun putting it together, parents with their kids and whatnot, and the stuff really works as the way you saw it in that video, and it's not janky and it's not unresponsive. If the stuff works as advertised, I think people will get over the fact that it's cardboard and it's not durable.
Yeah, that's a good point. Eric, we didn't get a chance to get your opinion on the BRAP rant the other day, and I know we've talked about it a little bit, but just give some of the viewers your thoughts on Labo. I think you'd be an early adapter. Is that correct?
No, I won't be. But I have that same feeling on it too. I think initially, I mean, I made the joke, Nintendo selling us cardboard, which they are, but when you step back and you look at, much like you said, the engineering that's going into it and the way it kind of interacts, if that actually all comes to fruition and actually is a thing, that could be potentially huge. Because even today, you and I were on the phone talking, and your son, you asked him about it, he said, "I think it's awesome." That's their target. It's not us. And I think I told you the other night, my daughter's not quite old enough for that yet, but if she was, I said, no, it's not for me. I'm not looking for it. But guess what? If she came in the room and said, "Hey, Dad, I saw this thing from Nintendo looks really cool. I think that'd be fun to do. Now I'm in the business. Now I'm in the market for it. You know, because I think it's a thing that captivates like an imagination. It's not, Nintendo's always about kind of getting people up and off the couch and doing something different. You know, so I respect that like wholeheartedly. Remove the idea that, yeah, it is cardboard. Remove that away from it and just look at the idea. You kind of go, that is interesting. There's a lot more going on there than just pieces of cardboard.
No, I agree.
You know? But I don't understand why people why it makes people so angry. Like, no one's forcing you to buy it. You don't have to buy it. And don't get mad at other people who are interested in it.
That's the thing that kills me. It's like the one thing that kills me about the gaming community sometimes is like we think because it isn't for us, like it has to die. Like we have to kill it, you know, or no one else can enjoy it because we don't like it or we don't see value in it. And you know, it's like some of the responses and even YouTube videos that I saw about Labo, I was just kind of like, what? Like, look, you're not the target audience, you know. It's for kids, and you're getting upset over a child's toy, really. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, man. But just
no, that's kind of like again, kind of my thoughts on it. Again, I'm not in the market for it. It's not something that I'm looking for. But again, I give props to Nintendo for a lot of ways thinking outside the box. They kind of beat to their own drum. They don't really necessarily worry about what other people are doing. They kind of set that trend. They take that risk that only Nintendo can do. They really do. Yeah. No, absolutely. Matt, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would echo almost all of what Sovereign said. I think when I saw the trailer come up, I kind of sat back in my chair. I was like, man, like what? How? And I thought, like, okay, this is the first time I've really been blown away by a trailer announced since I think the initial trailer for the original Nintendo Wii, where I just sat back and went, oh man, they're changing the rules. They're changing the rules again. How the hell am I going to forecast this thing? What? How? But yeah, it hits all of the right buttons for that younger audience. The paper craft, the environmentally friendly nature of the cardboard, the ability that kids have to customize these things with stickers or colors or drawing on it, whatever they want to do to make these things their own. The opportunity for parents and kids to work together. I mean, the console market hasn't had a really kid-friendly device hit in a while. We haven't had a lot of games for kids in a while, and this is just such a cool thing. And like, I don't know, is it going to sell 1 million, 2 million? Is it going to sell 100,000? Is it going to sell 50,000? I can't figure it out yet, but damn it, I'm so glad they're doing it just because it's so crazy and targets such an underserved audience, and it's just a freaking cool idea, man. So yeah, I'm just kind of blown away with the whole concept, and I'm really looking forward to like seeing it live and seeing people react to it and watching the videos, and I think it's really neat.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I agree with what Eric and you said, and Sovereign. I think it's I think you bring up an interesting point. Like they're serving an underserved market, and I think that, to me, I think that's why if the holiday 2018 comes around and people are lining outside Walmart or riding to get this, I can't say I would be surprised if that happened. B Money, man, what are your thoughts? Any additional thoughts, man?
When I first saw it, I mean, it was just one of those things where it's like, all right, Nintendo got another winner. You know what I mean? Like, I always feel like Nintendo is they take the most risk. You know what I mean? And they usually see some sort of reward for it. We saw this with the Wii, and they hit us with the motion control, and everybody was like, "Oh, that'll never work." And then everybody and their grandma was literally, went around with Wiimotes. You know what I mean? And then the Wii U came out, and it wasn't as successful. But what they did come out during that generation was the Amiibo, and a lot of other companies try to follow that trend and come with this Toys to Life thing. And guess what? Nintendo's the only one that's still around doing that. Everybody else is on the clearance shelf. You know what I mean? So So we come to this with this cardboard thing, and it's definitely something different. And you know, I mean, I thought they, you know, like you guys mentioned, they're hitting a target market that the other consoles just aren't doing. And I think it's something that can really take advantage of. You know, I mean, like you said, during the holiday season, I think this could be huge for them, especially if it's what it you know, is as advertised, and you know, if they continue to grow and put out more kits and things like that, it'll only get bigger and bigger over time. So I'm excited to see what they do with it, and see the actual response to it, because you know, it did reach pretty high up on Amazon's bestseller list right away. It was like 1 and 2 for a while, and I think it's like 3 and 4 right now. So a lot of people definitely are showing interest in it, but we just have to see once it releases.
I'm gonna be bullish and go out here and say this thing's gonna be a hit. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah, I think so. I think the rioting in the streets thing is not too far off.
And I know this is totally anecdotal, but my 8-year-old saw that robot thing and he was like hyped. I mean, he was like, "I want that." He's like, "And I want it now."
Yeah, kids love cardboard, man. Like it wasn't too long ago, not this year, but last year, man. Christmas Day, my nephew, he cracked open some stuff and he threw it to the side and he was messing with the box. And I'm like, what is going on here, man? It's a thing, something about cardboard, man. Like, I don't know what it is, but kids just like, you know, they love playing with the stuff. And it's funny because people making jokes about like how, you know, Miyamoto's on a cardboard kick and that's why this stuff came out. And like everybody's working in cardboard cubicles over there at Nintendo.
And you can't front because, you know, they were probably sitting around like in the warehouse, like doing stuff, and they were like,
I would love to hear this.
An interesting toy.
I would love to hear the story about how this came to fruition, how this happened.
Right. I would too. I think it'd be a fascinating story, like a developer story, to hear how they came up with this idea, you know, to use cardboard.
It's funny because I said, you know, you're thinking outside the box, and you kind of think of, it brings new meaning to thinking outside of the literally, you know.
But you know what's really cool too, and I think Matt, you brought this up. Now you have children and parents, and I'm a gamer, you know. My wife isn't a gamer, but now potentially my wife now is being brought into gaming, you know, and not directly knowing that she's being brought in, but she is, because now she's going to be sitting down building these things with our kids, and you know, the kids are going to look at mommy and daddy and be like, "Hey, try this out. This is really cool." You know, and now you have the entire family gaming. And I feel like Nintendo's always been trying to figure out how to bridge that gap, I guess, between, you know, the gamers and the non-gamers, or creating a community of, or taking the family who might not necessarily game together, you know, and getting them to do that. And I think that's what this does. And I can totally see, you know, my wife, even and again, she is not a gamer by any stretch of the imagination. I can see her, you know, picking up that fishing rod or whatever it is and playing with it, you know.
Once more on a Wednesday night, the stars align in the heavens. And at this late hour, as the shadows grow long, a guest arrives you did not expect. Heed this lesson well, for you never know who is waiting in the dark. Hey guys, what's up?
John, what is going on, man?
You just somebody in chat says, you know what time it is when he pops up.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, man,
it always reminds me like wrestling when someone's in the ring just running their mouth and all of a sudden the music
No, we just got done doing our test stream for our big SDGC relaunch tomorrow.
Nice.
Excuse me. We are abandoning YouTube because YouTube is garbage. We've got a whole new setup on OBS. We'll be on Twitch.
We've got an intro video. We've got subscriber animations. We've got the whole 9 yards. We're going to be Twitch streamers now.
That's awesome, man.
It's good. We spent 2 weeks getting it set up. We've been test streaming every night. We've been working on it literally every night.
Wow.
Sometimes for a couple hours. But I think everybody's going to be really impressed with what we got. Yeah, that's going to be good. And we got Shinobi. Shinobi's going to be giving his first appearance since joining Wushu Games.
Nice, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, so yeah, no, dude, it's going to be good.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. He's actually Shinobi's actually going to be recording with us on Friday night on Loot Chest too.
Oh, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah. So and then hopefully you can join us next Friday as well, man, on Loot Chest.
No, you got to get in that Loot Chest, man.
Yeah, definitely. So
plus, I saw my boy Matt was on here, so I kind of had to stop by.
What's going on?
What's up, man? We need to get you back on the show, dude.
You got to have a show first.
Yeah, I know. Tomorrow, man, we're back.
Sounds good.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be lit. So what are we talking about? We talking about video games?
Yes, we are. And John, I'm glad that you joined us tonight because I want to get here.
I'm glad.
I'm not glad. I'm excited. But seriously, I want to get your hot take. You have spicy takes.
I've got some pretty zesty shit. Yeah.
Yeah, you do, and I want to get your take on the Nintendo Labo stuff.
Oh, I thought you were going to ask me about the Game Pass stuff, to be honest with you.
Well, we'll get that too, but your take on that.
I think the Labo stuff is cool. It's look, here's the thing. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter go back and forth like, cardboard, it's for kids. I'm not buying that shit, and I'm going to play Call of Duty and, grow another fucking 3 inches of hair on my chest. And that's fine. But, I mean, people need to understand, look, it's not for me, but I'll tell you what. My 9-year-old has a Switch. And he can't fucking wait. And I already pre-ordered one for him, and I'll fucking play it with him. People need to, that's one thing I don't like about sorry, can't talk tonight. I'm kind of drunk. That's one thing I don't like about game. Yeah, dude, I've been drinking a lot today. That's one thing I don't like about gamer culture right now is the fact that if it's not for me, it's shit. It's not for me, so it's garbage. It's fun. I can't believe you paid $70 for fucking cardboard. Well, you know what? Then don't pay the fucking money. Just don't pay the money. Don't buy it. And besides, I mean, it's a game. You're not just buying cardboard. You're buying a fucking game. There is a cartridge that you put into the Switch. I mean, the motherfucker just doesn't run on hopes and dreams. So I mean, what the fuck do you? I mean, what the fuck do you think is in the box? I mean, I don't know. I don't know, man. It just the whole thing frustrates me. It probably shouldn't, but it does. And if you're really worried about, I don't know. I don't know. I won't get too deep into it because I don't know what other people on the podcast think, and I don't want to disrespect anybody. But
it's so great to have Megadeth on, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Megadeth has the best. He get the hot takes, man. I love the hot takes.
I don't believe in holding back. Like if I'm going to give you my opinion, I'm going to give you my opinion, and you can either fucking take it or leave it. But yeah, like I mean, just don't sweat what other people want to do with their money. And if you do see a grown ass man enjoying it, that's fine. Who gives a shit? It doesn't make them any less of a person or any less of a man or an adult than you are.
Yeah, so, I've seen people have those takes like, "Oh, you're not a man if you play with this." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, I said on Twitter, I was like, "This looks really cool. This looks really great. This is awesome." And I don't know who it was. It's one of those people who they look for stuff to comment on Twitter, and they've got 50 followers, and and they follow 700 people. And this guy comes at me, and he's like, "Oh, pussy," or something like that. I can't remember what he said. He's like, "Oh, it's for kids," punk. And I was like, "Dude, you have." I was like, "Do you have any idea like who I am or what I've done in my life, dude? I shit in you. Shut up. Like, get out of here. Like, dude, you have 50 followers. I see that you don't follow me, so that means you were looking for this shit on Twitter. You were looking. So, like, do you feel better now? Now that you found somebody who said this looks cool, does that are you good now? And the sad part is that these people have families and children most of the time. So, I don't know. If you're that unhappy in your home life with your family, that you got to find you need to troll people on Twitter, then I don't know, man. You should probably get some counseling or something, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Marriage counseling or something.
Yeah. John, what about your hot take on Game Pass?
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think it's a great fucking idea. And, Matt can probably speak more intelligently about it, than I can. But, there are people who say, oh, why would I pre-order a game? Why would I, these are all valid. But look, here's the thing. Microsoft, not just Microsoft, but whenever a corporation makes a move like this, they do it based on focus testing. Like they're not going to just do this and by throwing shit at a wall and hoping it sticks, right? Like, look at Nintendo, right? Well, when Nintendo said we believe we can sell X amount of Switch consoles this year, people were like, Matt, what was the number they originally said for Switch? What was their projection? Like, we're going to sell what, 10 million?
Yeah, then they bumped it up. Yep.
Yeah, it was 10 million, right? And people were like, oh, there's no fucking way, blah blah blah. And I'm like, look, they don't just throw these arbitrary numbers out there for nothing, right? Like this is based on focus testing, and this is based on interest that people have in a certain product. Study goes into this, and it's the same thing with Game Pass. Microsoft would not do this if they didn't think they could make it work. They would not do this if they weren't confident that it was going to make them money. That's the thing. Microsoft is a corporation. They are going to do what is going to make them the most money. And honestly, I think this is building a solid foundation for the future. This generation for Microsoft is lost, and they know that. And that's fine. Xbox isn't going anywhere. It's it's not like they lost. I say lost, like they didn't lose this fucking Super Bowl or anything. But some people like to make that go, oh, it's like my sports team. But yeah, they're not going to win this generation, for whatever that means. But I think it's building a solid foundation for the future, and this is doing something that the competition isn't, and I think that's smart. Because this to me is a far bigger deal than, oh, we've got a box with more power, or like this is big, this is huge. I mean, and honestly, like if the goal is to get consoles in people's houses, like I don't have an Xbox One. It has not interested me until now, but now I want one, and I feel like I think that's probably going to be the case for quite a few people. Is okay, well, why wouldn't I buy an Xbox now? And that's smart. Mm-hmm. And look, it's not like these first party studios aren't getting restitution. Like it's like, oh, it's going to kill game sales. Okay, look, they're going to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Okay. Microsoft will pay them a dividend. I mean, it's not like they're just taking the game and putting it on Game Pass and saying, well, fuck the publisher.
Yeah.
Or, I'm sorry, fuck the developer. Like that's not how any of this works. Mm. So I think it's great. Yeah.
You think maybe some of the other like the Activisions or the EAs now maybe look at this and say, wait a minute, maybe this is something we should look at?
No, I don't, because like again, I mean, you're talking about like Activision, games like Destiny and Anthem. I'm assuming. I don't think so. I don't think the market is big enough for that. And besides, like, I mean, it wouldn't make any sense for a developer or a publisher to do that. I mean, you've got to have it's got to be a console manufacturer that does stuff like this. I don't think an actual game developer, or I'm sorry, I don't think a pub would be able to sustain something like that. Mm-hmm. But then again, I'm no expert. I'm just a guy who talks shit about video games. So I mean,
Gotcha. All right, man. Well, yeah, that's a good take, man. And look, we all agree. I think this is. You know what's funny about this? This is like the one pro consumer thing that I've actually seen people complain about. And that's the other thing that's baffling to me. It's like, this is a great deal. Like I was saying to the guys earlier, like, I didn't really have any interest in CFDs and maybe State of Decay and Crackdown, and yeah, I get to try them out now. At $10 as opposed to, going out and dropping $60 retail. So.
Enrique, I wanted to make a statement real quick. Yeah. So I was just talking about people put too much like, oh, you don't like this, you're not a dude. So I'm playing Final Fantasy X-2 remastered on my PS4, right? Mm-hmm. And like it when you're playing it online, it just shows as Final Fantasy X/X-2 collection. Mm-hmm. Right? So I just got a message right now from somebody on PSN who I don't even know. It says 10 or 10-2, be honest. And I'm like, why? What? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, and I know what he's getting at. What he's asking me is, are you playing the one starring all the chicks? Are you playing the one with all the chicks? Be honest. And it's like, yeah, I am. Who fucking cares? Like,
be honest.
I don't know what dude, be honest. And I'm like, why would I lie about that?
Matt's over there shaking his head. He's like, what?
What the fuck? Like, what kind of question is that? I'm playing 10-2. Yes, it stars all chicks. And yes, you can dress them up in pretty dresses and it changes their attacks. Like, I don't fucking care. Like, why would you lie about that, dude? What? Be honest.
Don't lie.
Let me tell you about it. Let me tell you about Style Savvy, John. You got to go find Style Savvy, brother. That's a good video game.
Style Savvy? What's Style Savvy?
Oh man, see, this is a whole subgenre that that core gamers don't know about, but there is a dedicated, devoted audience. It's a game where like you put together outfits, you have a fashion store. It's pretty intense. I'm not even kidding.
Matt. I'm
not even kidding.
Matt,
go check it out.
Be honest.
Be honest.
Dude, Style Savvy's pretty fresh, and I will kick anyone's ass who says otherwise.
Dude, there's no way, Matt. I'm telling you right now, there's no way you're making prettier dresses than me. There's no fucking way. I got an eye for this shit, Matt. Okay, I know a pretty dress when I see one.
Hey, fair enough.
I think we got a new hashtag there. Be honest.
Yeah, be honest.
Hashtag be honest. I can't get on this message. 10-2. Be honest.
This is BRAP, the Be Honest podcast.
Be honest. Be honest. You know, like I'm gonna know if you're lying to me, man. Like, fuck. Jesus Christ, dude.
Oh, man.
That's too funny. Too funny.
What should I say back to this guy?
I don't know, man.
Yeah, who gives a shit? I don't even know this guy. He's not even on my friends list. What the fuck? Oh, whatever.
Yeah, man, I gotta check this game out, man. I'm gonna look into this. I never heard it until you mentioned it, so I'm gonna check this out.
Sounds really stylish.
Yeah, yeah. So
it's a first party game too. It's a Nintendo published game. Like it's one of those weird things that like not many people talk about. The ones that do.
Oh, I mean like Nintendo's?
But with like here you go. The line is make over up and coming singers, actresses, models, and more to inspire them to stardom and awaken their inner fashionistas.
Oh boy.
Somebody chat says nothing wrong with playing his fine ass protagonist in a game.
Yeah, I wonder if that game will incorporate battle royale mode at some point.
Oh, that'd be dope.
Style Savvy battle royale.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's coming. It's gonna come. It's gonna happen.
Yo, some guys have problems playing like this female protagonist.
Yeah. I've never understood that. Like I know guys who don't want to play Horizon because it's like, oh, it plays a chick.
I've read people say that it hurt. Yeah, and it just blows my mind. I'm like, what?
Yeah. What do you care? Like, well, I can't relate to them. I'm like, what?
I can't relate. I can't relate to women.
Can't relate, you know, because I get I'm just a chick, and I just don't like it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, in his real life, he has relationship issues. Can't figure out why.
Well, no, I just the people that I'm like, I am shocked that you have trouble relating to a woman. That really just really surprises me.
Oh my goodness!
Right?
Stunned. I don't believe it.
Oh my goodness! All right, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap up the show.
Whenever I come in here, shit just goes off the rails. I'm sorry.
No, man, it's all good, John. I'm glad I did get your DM, man. But I'm glad that you're able to join us for the last couple of minutes of the show and give us your spicy takes on Nintendo Labo and on Game Pass too. So
plus, I'm just trying to dish this fucking cold, man. It just will not go away. God.
It's the weather.
In regards to Game Pass, is everybody jumping in or
I'm gonna get an Xbox.
Wait and see, or how's everybody feeling about it?
Oh, I'm getting in.
Jumping in completely.
Oh, dude, yeah, no, I'm picking up an Xbox One S and I'm hopping on it.
Now, John, are you really getting Xbox One S, man?
Yeah, I'm not gonna get it right away. I'll probably get it in March when I've got some money.
I think Matt and I tweeted your wife and asked her if you could get an S, and she's like, no.
A bunch of people have. She's like, oh my god, would you please tell people to stop?
Oh, really? So it just wasn't me and Matt that day. It was a bunch
No,
of
it was a bunch of people. They were like, Vicky, let John get an Xbox. And then she's like, oh my God, stop it. she's like, call your army off.
Call your army off. They're harassing me.
And I said, honey, I'm sorry, but I can't control my soldiers. They've all gone rogue.
Oh, it's so funny, man.
And now I'm like DMing people like, keep tweeting her. Keep tweeting her. It's working.
Well, dude, I mean, now's the time to get an S, man. I mean, they're relatively, cheap, I guess. Now, are they still like $200 or something?
No, they'll be good. I mean, like a new one, like with like 1 terabyte, is like $299 at GameStop. But
oh, never mind. I thought they were cheaper for some reason. Yeah,
yeah, no, I mean, yeah, those I should have grabbed one when they were $189.
Yeah, dude, you should totally grab one $189.
I should have.
Yeah.
But like honestly, dude, like the real thing that's kept me from buying a Switch or buying not a Switch, but buying an Xbox till now is like, I've got a PS4, I've got a Switch. 2017 has given me so many fucking games to play that I don't know if I can handle 3 fucking consoles. Like, shit, like I already play way too many games as it is.
Yeah.
And like I'll get home from work and I'll go to the gym, and then I come home and on the couch play my Switch, and then around like 8 o'clock I'm like, all right, I'm gonna play my PS4. Like I play way too many fucking games. But and I don't know if I can keep up with another console and another set of games. I just don't know.
Dude, Game Pass will just blow that open for you, man.
Man.
Yeah, Game Pass would certainly
if you have any form of gamer ADD, is just going to add to it.
Yeah, that's true, man. All right, gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the podcast. Matt, it was a pleasure, man, having you on again. Thank you again for your time. And again, I know it was short notice, but really appreciate you coming on tonight.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thanks for having me around. Love to do it again.
Absolutely, man. We'd love to have you back on again and discuss more industry trends and NPD news. And for those that are watching, where can they find you at, Matt?
The Twitters. I tweet things on my Palm Pilot on the internet at Matt Piscatella. I got some 2018 predictions coming out. I'll tweet those tomorrow, so you can see how wrong I'll be, and that'll be a good time. But thanks, yeah.
What the fuck is the internet?
What?
I don't know. It'll be faxing $20 over the internet on my Palm Pilot. We'll figure it out.
Great, dude. The internet sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Tweets and boots.
Lord Sovereign, thank you again, man. Great having you on. It's been a while, man. I'm glad you were able to make it tonight, man. I had Cognito track you down, so thank you.
Yeah, man. It's been definitely too long. It was great being back on. But yeah, man, always a pleasure to be on this show. Always a pleasure to be here. People can find me on Twitter at Lord Sov ILP, Xbox and PlayStation at BX Sovereign, and every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, Iron Lords Podcast.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah, definitely check these guys out. Great group of guys. Always a great time. Listening to you guys and when I can, joining as a guest. So
yeah, you guys are family. All you need to do is drop that DM and we'll get you in the conversation quickly. Like,
no, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. And John, man, great having you on again, man. Glad you could join us tonight. And let everybody know about SDGC and what you guys have planned for tomorrow night.
It's a real shitty podcast that I do. Bunch of other dudes. But we're doing a big relaunch tomorrow. It's going to be good. It's going to have no more Google Hangouts, no more YouTube. It's going to have a super slick professional look and sound. And of course, Shinobi, who's a good friend, Shinobi602, who is a really good friend of mine, has been for a long time. He is now the PR and marketing head for Wushu Studios, which is made up of former PlayStation and BioWare devs. He will be making his first podcast appearance as the marketing head for Wushu on SDGC tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find us on Twitch. We still have a YouTube channel, and all our videos will be uploaded onto YouTube. But our primary focus is going to be on Twitch. And I can also tell you, without spoiling anything, I'm not going to tell you what they are, but we also have 2 more podcasts that will be joining the core podcast. They will not be hosted by me. They will be hosted by other members of the podcast to promote the idea that it's not just mine, it's a team effort. I will not be involved in those podcasts, but you can expect some pretty big things from the podcast moving forward. E3, or not E3, but PAX East is going to be really big for us. And we're also giving away a copy of Monster Hunter World tomorrow.
Nice.
Yep, all you got to do is go to @officialsdgc on Twitter and follow the instructions there if you want to win. But you have to follow the instructions. Enrique, next time I come on, I'll have to do the podcast in Dothraki.
Oh yeah, you definitely have to do that, man.
I can actually speak Dothraki. Yeah,
that's actually pretty cool.
Actually, Dothraki check. Dude, that's what I say to my wife, man. Like, I'll tell her Jalana Thaliani.
Oh my god, I just had a bad visual in my mind. You dress like in a loincloth. I don't know why.
That's what I do when I put my loincloth on. Welcome to be like Sheikh Thaliani.
Oh my god! All right, B Money, man. Where can people find you, man?
Yeah, man. Just find me on Twitter and everywhere else. Same tag. It's B Money 101. You can find me on Tick Podcast every Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So come through, check us out. Network is continuing to grow. We picked up that #1 draft pick last year with them Iron Lord boys. So it's been a great addition to the squad, and we got some new things cooking up. So look forward to 2018 and everything that we bring to the table. So should have a big year.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And Mr. Eric Jackson.
Yep. You can find me around Twitter, where I like to sit and watch the comedy unfold.
Oh yeah,
and all day, every day. So yeah, just definitely follow me there, EC Jackson, and just always have good conversations, peeps.
All right, man. Sounds good. And everyone, you can find me on Twitter as well at BRAP_podcast. And if you haven't subscribed, give us a sub, hit the like button, let people know about us as we're looking to grow the podcast, and we'll be looking to get some more industry guests on this year as well. So thank you everyone for tuning in. There was some new folks in the live chat. Thank you for coming by and hanging out with us. And Matt, again, thank you so much, man. We'll have to get you back on again soon. And everyone, if you haven't done so already, check out some of the more recent BRAP rants that we've done. So definitely some great stuff. We did one on Tuesday. Yesterday. On Wednesday, B Money was there. Lord Cognito from Iron Lords, and Jay Fonzarelli. We were talking about Game Pass and also Nintendo. Also, speaking of Jay Fonzarelli, definitely check out Lou Chess Radio. If you go to @Lou Chess Radio on Twitter, I'm actually a co-host on that podcast as well. Definitely check us out. We record every Friday night, and then I think the podcast release Sunday nights, I think, on iTunes and YouTube as well. So definitely check that out.
You're like a Ryan Seacrest of podcast.
Nah, man, I'm not. Nah. That's actually Jay. I think Jay's like on 4 podcasts, man. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll randomly like see him on a podcast. He's like, "Oh, I'm on that podcast too." I'm like, "What?" Yeah. So definitely check out Lou Chest. We're actually going to have Shinobi on as well on Friday. He's going to be our special guest. And John, we'll have you on next week, I think, too, right?
Yeah, man. I'll be there.
Awesome. So we'll look forward to that. Everyone, thank you again. Have a great evening, and we will catch you next week at our normal time at Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So see you guys then. Peace.